for the program on the Nigerian Economic and Sustainability Outlook, a review of 2021 and a peep into 2022 of how the economy and other sectors of the economies will be performing. This morning, this program is being brought to you by the Nungu Business School in collaboration with the Islamic Impact Centre. So we will be going straight into the program. But before I do that, I just want to give a brief overview. And from this overview, which will allow our facilitators to settle down and then have the first and second presentation. We have a long day. A few tips here and there so that we can also have an enjoyable moment in the course of this presentation. So should you experience technical issues, lost on audio, lost in video, just log out and log in, and that will resolve it. Our technical guys are at the background, and they are helping us with the technicalities of whatever we need to do here. More importantly, we have, sorry. I'm not on mute. Can everybody hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. So please, if you have an audio problem, please, if you have an audio problem, check your audio, please. Just log out and log in, and that will solve it for you. Okay, that makes it easy for everybody, and we can have a smooth sail. I can see Dr. Muhammad is here, Dr. Adam Muhammad is here, Alaji Aliu Akoshili is also here. So we have quite a number of our guests this morning are already here. And we will be looking, like I said, into the Nigerian economy. It's been an interesting year. 2021 has been an interesting year. We've seen a positive growth in the GDP of 4.03%, total factor of production positive of 1.5%. We've seen the Nigerian stock market capitalization of 3.61%. We've also seen increase in airline passenger by 17.75%. But all is not rosy all the way. We've also seen a decline in income per capita of approximately 3%. The Naira lost 55.9% in 3 years, fell from 363 to $1 to 566 to the dollar. We've had 3 recessions in 5 years, and we're recovering from the third recession now. Our life expectancy is put at 55.75 years, fourth lowest in the world. And our panel will be dealing with quite a number of data with us this morning. And we will be armed with what we need to do our business with moving forward. And as we listen to them, we will take notes, and we'll have also a brilliant panel discussion after the presentations. So I want you to sit back, relax, and let's listen to the experts. First, we're starting with a presentation from Dr. Muhammad Salahuddin. Dr. Muhammad Salahuddin is the chairman of the Nungu Business School. He's an economist, and he will be starting the presentation this morning. Dr. Muhammad, over to you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I guess you can all hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you clearly, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm very delighted to be here today, and I thank everyone for making it a date with us today to be part of this program. I'll just go straight into the platform, into the program proper. Yeah, first, I would like us to look at what is happening globally, or what happened last year globally, and even some of the things that are happening now. Then we look at Nigeria as a whole for last year. Then we look at the outlook and the implication for some of these things that is happening or that have happened when it comes to the business that we're supposed to be running. Well, certainly there must be change from the way we've been doing things before. So if we don't take change by the hand, it will surely take us by the throat, according to Churchill. So it's important that things have to change for us to be able to live the kind of life we want to live. It's a quick outlook and outline, which I've mentioned earlier, so I'll just go straight into the details. The first thing I want us to look at is the world is undergoing turbulent time. There's a lot of things that are changing. It continues to be characterized, the world continues to be characterized by more uncertainties a lot of complexity, and a lot of disruption across the world. We've seen the change in the power dynamics. It used to be the European countries, it used to be America at the top of the world, controlling and managing the economy of the world. We've seen the growing influence of China. We've seen the emergence of the Eastern Bloc. We've seen a lot of ultranationalism. A lot of things are changing. Politics of energy. Energy used to rule the world. Energy no longer rule the world. It's now technology. So technology is taking over. Digital power economies are the stronger economies in the world now. So those are the guys that determines what happens. If you don't have technology as your bedrock, you're not going to survive the present day 21st century. So we've seen digital transformation, and we've seen a lot of campaign and clean, efficient energy, which means there's a little bit more time for fossil fuel. But then we've also seen shifts in human geography. Population has been growing in some part of the world, so population is declining in some other part of the world. We've seen globalization, more and more part of the world are becoming very smaller. Then we've seen migration and immigration. A lot of people move from one country to the other country. Typically, those countries that you don't see a lot of migration, you now begin to see migration between nations and among nations. Then we begin to see a lot of war for talent. People are growing their talents, are building talents, developing talents, so that they're able to compete in the world, becoming a highly talented world. Then we've been able to see a lot of ideological battles. We've seen the right and the left, the extreme right, the extreme left, the shifting generation nuances. This generation doesn't believe that I should get married. Why should a woman get married? Why should a man go to school? I don't need to go to school to be successful. Look at A, look at B. So we've seen a lot of ideology. I'm not going to think the way I'm thinking now. I'm not going to think the way of my father. Things like that. So a lot of turbulence, a lot of complexity and disruption. And we've seen COVID-19, another new addition since 2020. We have seen COVID-19, we've seen global pandemic, we need different variants of COVID, up to Omicron, and even the latest one, addition of mixture of Omicron and some other. So we've seen a lot of uneven responses when it comes to COVID-19 attack. People don't believe in vaccines, or mother take vaccines, or ready to go to court to challenge vaccine, even among the medical experts in the world. So these are some of the things that makes the world very, very challenging. So let's look at the global economic activity in year 2020, 2021, and 2022. Actually, economic activities has continued to recover after 2020 experience because of COVID, but the momentum has weakened with increasing uncertainty, which means there's a lot of uncertainty across the world. We look at annual GDP growth of the world. We've seen changes. Earlier, if you look at the far right, we've seen advanced emerging markets experiencing significant decline in their GDP in 2020. Like the United States dropped by 3.5%, United Kingdom 19.9%, 9.9% rather. India dropped by 8.8%. It's only China that grew 2.3%. China is used to growing double digits, but they had to drop to 2 digits, to just 1 digit, that's 2.3%. So now we've seen Brazil also decline. Nigeria, you remember, Nigeria went down minus 1.8%, after which we went into recession. And then South Africa also declined. So we've seen a lot of this, though it has improved. It improved in 2021, but then those are experiences. It means it's increasing with a lot of uncertainty. Then the trend that will shape the global landscape in 2022, we're looking globally now. What are those things that will shape the global landscape in 2022, this year? And we have some of these as an implication for Nigeria. If you look at your left, we're talking about trade relations. There are more and more trade relationships happening among nations. So we've seen the emergence of the African Continental Free Trade. All the countries have signed now, and everybody is signing into that agreement. The commencement is supposed to start in earnest. The implication is that strategically, companies need to think within African continent as African continent and as African country and do business with themselves. So we've seen pandemic resurgence and vaccination rollout in different parts of the world. Nigeria may benefit from support from multinational organizations in terms of this, because in Africa, you remember, we don't even have our own vaccine, homegrown vaccine. So we don't have equal access to vaccine like they have in the East, in the West, and part of the world. Then the oil price. Oil price has been fluctuating between $66 got to in 2020 before now, and we've seen $81. Even as at 2-3 days ago, it's still within the same range of over $80. both the Brent and even the WTI. And these have a lot of implication for Nigeria. Higher government revenue, foreign earnings, and everything is being affected by oil, because oil is the determinant of the revenue that Nigeria generates, and a lot of African countries also that into oil, Angola, Ghana, and the rest. So we've seen capital flows. It's a mixed picture. Investor confidence is developing in some part of the economy while it's declining in some others. Investments will be dampened by low investor sentiment and concern on Naira devaluation. Naira has been devalued tremendously, whether we like it or not, and it is likely to it's going to go down again because we're even advised by international organizations that it has to go down for us to be able to compete in the world. So we've seen also as a challenge, major key trend that's happening is human capital development. So more and more Africans will continue to migrate within Africa, America, and go to Europe. A lot of migration. We've seen a lot of people. You can't believe, but I'm sure going down these details, you see some countries that you can't ordinarily believe that Nigerians go to. You see them that even more than what you see people go to US or Canada or whatever. So continued shortage of quality talent and high unemployment rates. Most of our talents, people that travel out of the country are talented people. Illiterates don't travel out of the country. So let's look at some Nigeria macroeconomic review. Leave the world and go to Nigeria. So one of the things that we're going to look at very quickly, just like the moderator started with, the African largest economy, yeah, that's Nigeria in terms of size. But the GDP is just $432 billion per annum. That's what we have ordinarily for quite a long time. Over 30 years, has been over 500 billion. It's declining. Share of sub-Saharan. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. I hear you, sir.
Okay, the share of the sub-Saharan African GDP that Nigeria has is about 19.9%, almost 20%, which means in terms of size of the GDP in Africa and sub-Saharan Africa is almost 20%. Then share of African export, only 20%. So share of import is 17.4%. These are quick statistics that give us an idea of what Nigerians look. Let's look at Nigerians and some other few African countries that are very close to Nigeria in terms of their sub-Saharan and Africa, in terms of GDP. Last year, we can see Nigeria, just like the figures have rolled out, $42 billion in terms of GDP. Share is 19%. GDP per capita is in 2020 is 2,100 per head, which means more and more Nigerians. If you look at the third item, the GDP per capita 2020, look at Nigeria is 2,100, South Africa is 5,000, excuse me, $5,090. That is the worth of an individual in the country. Indirectly, that's what it means. So in Ghana is 2.3, which means a Ghanaian is worth than a Nigerian. And an Angolan is nearly close to what a Nigerian is worth in terms of. So the GDP growth last quarter of 2021 is as shown 4% for Nigeria, 2.9% for South Africa, 3.9% in Ghana, 1.2% in quarter two, that of Angola. That's what I have. So, which means Nigeria needs to wake up. But then let's look at those strong figures for Nigeria. 2021, strong and rosy data. We've seen the positive growth, 4% in terms of GDP. Total factor production is 1.4%. Inflation rates moved from 18% to 15%. It further went down to 15.4%, but it's still double digit, which means it's still very high. We've seen countries in Africa that have less than 4%. Senegal has 4%, for instance, in terms of their inflation growth, which means people in that country can buy a lot of things with fewer money. So gross external reserve is about $40 billion. It grew 14%. And the Brent crude we've seen that's moved an average in 2020 to 81.2%, by 81.1% to an average of $78.7 per barrel. In 2022, budget expenditure has grown up at 16.39%, 20% higher than 2021 budgets. To commission higher largest refinery in Nigeria, that's Dangote refinery, and we're looking at also the construction of the fertilizer plant for also Dangote. Those are strong things that can, if we need to sustain or even do better than this to grow the economy. Actually, we need to sustain it because we have a lot of debts Then Rosie, we've seen corporate profit grow by 30%, that's 1.3 trillion. Stock market capitalization is 3.6%, moved from 3.6% to 21.82 trillion naira. In terms of percentages, it's 3.6%. So Nigeria was able to raise $47.2 million from the 5G license that was sold some weeks back. These are some of the things that were earned by Nigeria. We're also able to raise $4 billion from the Eurobond market. And we also seen airline passengers increase by 17.75%, which means we have more people moving and flying during the period. Some companies were successful. So few companies that did very well. We have top 5 companies made a total of 788 billion in profit after tax, and they pay a huge tax of 386 billion in total. And they also employ more than 250,000 people. We've seen them, Dangote, Nestle Foods, MTN, Airtel, Boa Group, just to mention some of the few companies that have been very successful. We've seen the rosy, we've seen the strong figures. Can we look at those things that are very gloomy in terms of our well-being of Nigeria, which shows that it's not all rosy after all. We've seen declining income per capita, approximately 3%, which means the income of individual per capita for individual Nigerian citizen has dropped. Nigeria also lost 55.9% in 3 years, which means in terms of Naira. So Naira fell from 363 to 566 in terms of exchange to dollar. So you need more money now to get $1 than 3 years back. We also experienced 3 recessions in 5 years, as shown in the figure earlier. And our life expectancy also dropped to 55.75%. So if anybody is more than 55.75 years, then is lucky. So unemployment rate has gone to 33.3%, 4th highest in Africa in terms of our unemployment rate. And I tell you, this unemployment figure, we've not seen unemployment figure for like more than 3 quarters now, almost a year now. We've not seen unemployment figures. We didn't get them from, but these are the last that we got. And the mystery index shows that only 48.7% is our index. These are not good enough. Ordinarily, it should have been much more lower than that. We have countries that have less than 5. 93.9 million people gone into poverty. That's why we're the poverty capital of the world. Road accidents, more and more people continue to die. It went on 4.57% to over 5,101 people died last year. Then the diaspora remittance dropped by 26% to $117 billion. Nigerians abroad are no longer making so much money, and they're not bringing much money home. They're taking money elsewhere to invest. Because more and more Nigerians are going abroad, which means they make more money, but those money are not coming home to Nigeria. They're taking them somewhere else where they can get more money in terms of reward. So in the last 5 years, looking at all these indicators, the real GDP, total factor production, inflation rates, unemployment, even meat and milk consumption. Let's look at the average last 5 years, in 2020, 2021. What changed? Those ones that changed that are in red to be substance that concerns us very well. Our GDP per capita, those are the ones I want to concentrate on, dropped by 2.73%. In terms of, which means in terms of production per number of capital people that we have, that's dropped. Our inflation rate is also bad, 1.3%, worse than what it was earlier. The non-employment rate has gone up. Our mystery index is 14.8%. So which means that more and more people are getting into trouble. Then oil production continued to drop. It dropped from 1.6 million barrels at an average in 5 years to 1.58. It will now drop even last year, 2021, to 1.42 million barrels per day. There's a lot of stealing of the oil, crude. We can't explain it, and we're not tackling it because we don't want trouble. Exchange rate, we've seen the exchange rate increased drastically in terms of percentage, 55.92%. Moved from 363 earlier, 2017, for instance, to 470 in 2020, now 566. It's massive. That is the reason why our diaspora bond is not coming in. It's better to take your money elsewhere and get more value for it. So in sub-Saharan Africa, the currency performance, let's look at our currency again, vis-a-vis that of other African countries. It's so shameful that a lot of currency, look at Angola, look at the inflation rate, their currency in 2018, their currency in 2020, and currency in 2021. Now compare with Nigeria. It means most African countries are in trouble, but some are in more trouble than others. So most African countries depreciated in the last 3 years. The Angolan Kwanza and Nigerian Naira depreciated the most during the period. Both are oil-dependent nations, so both Nigeria and Angola are dependent on oil, and they're the ones that are losing in terms of depreciation of their currency. Only the Angolan Kwanza appreciated last year. So across Africa, things are becoming worse. So we've seen recession. We've seen how our currency have done. We've seen what is happening to oil. We've seen what is happening to a lot of other things. Then we went into recession twice in the last 5 years, like we said. Then we can see a lot of some recovery coming in gradually. We've been able to come out of it, but like the other countries, the Nigerian economy has been on the recovery path. The Q3 report in 2021 normalized as base effects unwind, which means base effect begin to change, and we now begin to grow and do better than what we did before. Then there's some sectorial growth in terms of some other sector apart from the oil that grew the GDP. The non-oil sector, such as finance, financial services, the ICT, information communication technology, are the growth propeller between 2020 and Q3 2021. They were able to drive our production growth during the period. It used to be oil, but now the GDP is not, the oil is not contributing much. Even the likes of entertainments is adding so much value to the GDP. Agriculture, ordinarily, there should have been more value to it, but year on year, it declined by 1.2% because of the crisis in the northeast and some part of the country where there's people could not go to their farm to farm. So we've talked about oil sector declining the GDP growth as a challenge. So the oil sector has been underperforming over the past years. Several issues: insecurity, economic downturn, fluctuation in terms of production, prices, and even stealing of the crude, a major one. So what are those macro trends that will shape 2022? What are those things that will shape 2022? The first thing is there's going to be a lot of pressure on the consumer, so much, because the Naira will have been devalued, fewer money is being earned, a lot of unemployment, so people are going to be begging people for money, more and more people begging for money. People need to feed. There are likely going to be increase in cost of transportation if the subsidy happens. So much pressure will be on the consumer. And federal government spending plan and policy implementation. We've seen that the federal government in the budget for 2022, there's a lot of spending plan. And in terms of this spending plan, there'll be a lot of money that we spend on politics. There's a lot of money that we'll be spending on security. If you look at the budget, huge amount of money, more than what was done in 2020 against 2021, was done for security. So investment and funding climate is not also very friendly. That's why the IMF was asking us to reduce our interest rate and look at our currency again and even remove subsidy. There's going to be socio-political pressure. Well, there's social pressure already. There's war, there's crisis, and there's political pressure now. There's more and more people. There's a lot of election coming in that people will be warming up. We've started seeing declaration for presidency, then digitalization. So these are some of the things. More and more organizations must digitalize their functions and roles so that people can begin to work outside, possibly from home. Then we look at high inflation as it pushes up the costs. There's no doubt about it. We've seen maximum lending rates at 27.1%, prime lending rates at 11.6%, 91-day treasury bill rates go to as much as 5.5%. Then the headline inflation has gotten to 16.16 around October last year. So the double-digit inflation rate is pushing up key costs. This is expected to remain elevated. 2022. All sign shows that it is going to be elevated. Then, African Continental Free Trade Agreement presents a window of opportunity for attracting investments, which means within Africa, we should be trading with ourselves more. As against spending dollars, we can begin to use our local currency or currencies that are strong. Remember in those days of euro, the British government refused to use euro, they were using the pounds. So you need to do more. If you do more of that inter-African trade, there will be a lot of tariff reduction. As it's going to increase by 90%. About 36 countries have ratified, but there are 54 countries have signed the agreement. Projected additional to African economy is about 83 trillion in terms of dollars. And the projected market size up to 2020 will be 1.7 billion US dollars, which is massive. That we should be doing business with ourselves in Africa and save ourselves a lot of harassment and stress from other parts of the world. It's going to be the world's largest free trade area, and it presents a lot of opportunity for Nigeria. Yeah, we're talking about immigration a while ago. Where are Nigerians going to? We can see the growth in terms of migration. If you look at the graph on the right side, you see about in the United States, it grew by 307% last year. I want us to take a careful look at some African countries. Look at the movement of Nigerians to Cameroon. 116%, which means more and more Nigerians are going to Cameroon. They are going to Niger Republic. Even though some argue that it's because of refugees, some are going to Ghana, 71% growth. And Cote d'Ivoire, Togo. We're even going to Sudan and Gabon, because it's only very strong people that have money that goes to the European countries and Americans. You see much more migration from this. The majority of the people that go to America and Europe are mainly students. So we also talk about skill as the thing that will challenge the future in Africa and in the world. So the more skillful you are, the more likely is it that you're going to. So the capital, low skill level have negative impact. It has negatively impacted the productivity gain within the Nigerian economy. We know the quality of people that will turn out as university graduates. Even if you want, even artisans, if you want a good bricklayer, if you want a good painter, if you want a good POP or tile man, what do you call them? You don't see them as Nigerian. You see people from Togo and Cotonou and whatever, Republic of Benin. Those are people that do. So we have low skill, whether highly skilled on even the artisans, whatever skill that it is, Nigerians are declining. If you look at the first on this table there, the quality of vocational training in Nigeria were the least among 12 countries are shown here, just 32%. In terms of critical thinking in teaching, look at so many countries before Nigeria. See Nigeria in a circle in red, that's 24%. Then in terms of skill sets of graduates, we're the least among all these nations that are mentioned here. Some of these nations are actually African nations. You can see Cote d'Ivoire, you can see Ethiopia before Brazil, and then Nigeria the last, or the least there on that table. There's a major crisis in human capital development due to lack of adequate funding for education and development of skill and schools and the rest. So here we are. Here again, we have insecurity. Navigating the challenges posed by insecurity will require careful choices. So we need a lot of much more investment in security investments. We need a lot more. So it affects us politically, socially, even our agriculture has been affected so much. And let's look at the budget for 2022 budget. Finally, government approved, the president approved the 17.126 trillion budget for 2022. It provides indication of expansionary spending, but worsening debt. The proposal is what is in the table by the diagram on the left. That was what proposed. But finally, the approved budget summary shows that the expenditure is 17.126 trillion. The allocation of 869 billion naira in terms of statutory allocation. Then we are going to spend 3.8 trillion naira to service debts out of 17. which means recurrent non-debt expenditure is 6.9 trillion. The oil benchmark was changed from $57 to $62 per barrel by the Senate before the president finally approved. Then the projected oil production also got increased to 1.88 million barrels per day. This tells us that we are going to borrow quite a lot of money here to be able to fund these budgets, which means the debts will have to go up. Then we're going to spend 3.8 trillion rather, to service debts, which means we're going to pay back those that we owe, including interest. Quite unfortunate. So which means we are leaving quite a lot of debt for a generation. So the implication of all these things that we have looked at, what is likely going to happen to us? Well, let's look at what's the overall growth outlook for Nigeria in 2022. Here we have looked at what World Bank said is going to happen, what they say is going to happen in 2021, and what they say is going to happen in 2022. What IMF say, what Euromonitor say, and what federal government is saying. World Bank says that the forecast for 2021, 2.4, IMF 2.6, Euromonitor 2.4, Nigerian federal government 3.0. But for 2022, by and large, Nigeria was able to do better in terms of their forecast. Overall growth of Nigeria in 2022 is expected to be positive, driven by expansionary fiscal policy stance, pick up in activity across sector. We expect a lot of things to pick up, to do better than what they're doing now as time goes on. That's the expectation. So though the World Bank has, the IMF reviewed their own from 2.7 to 2.5 now, 2 days ago. And the World Bank still insists it's likely going to be 2. They have reviewed their own to 2.5 also, thinking that things are going to get better and telling us to reduce interest rates and remove subsidy. If we do that, they are used to changing the goalposts and their forecast. We also expect that the economy is going to go 4.2% as our outlook. Then there's going to be election in 2023, but the money will be spent a lot in 2022. So what we have done here is to look at, during election time, what happens? In most markets, election uncertainty investors tend to run from that. They're leading to downturn in growth and market meltdown. In Nigeria, because of our premature democracy, the trend is not obvious. We're not sure of what's going to happen. If you look at this table, in 2015, we had election, and 2019, we have election. But the figures does not show anything. The only thing you see is that a lot of money is being spent. Where the money is being spent from, you may not show in the budget, which means as a country, we have a way of people saving for election and keeping it somewhere, and you don't see it appear. So electronic transmission of results will make election more credible. Then Edo and Anambra election are a shining example of this thing happening. So if we're able to do this, which means, and government is not funding parties, spending so much money on parties, what we are going to see is a lot of money in the market. That means a lot of people will have money at hand. Whatever it is that people are going to do with the money, or whatever it is that the politicians expect people to do with the money, but then it's going to impact on the economy. So we've seen that inflation in the past has been affected by election spend, as shown in this graph in 2019 and 2015. In 2015, inflation was 19.1, but it dropped in 2019 to 11.4. So one more things we see that are likely going to change this election spend here. So what do businesses need to do? We haven't seen all this as a major constraint. Financing businesses must do, which is very, very vital and important. For businesses must be very, very agile with their policy changes. Strategic agility, which means they are going to be reviewing their strategy very, very promptly. They will have looked at several factors, something that we have talked about now, in terms of skill that is available, in terms of likely thing that will happen in terms of election, the oil price, the subsidy that's going to happen depending on the kind of business you're doing, the likelihood that there will be going to be more money because of spend, which means people are likely to bring out their more money towards the middle of the year, and the chances that there may be subsidy removal. So all these things will keep people on their toes. That's why it's also very difficult to actually plan in Nigeria. So achieve optimal carrying capacity and take advantage of new opportunities area in terms of skill. Then adoption of investments in technology and digital platform to drive operational efficiency. There's no doubt that one must invest in technology. We've seen Standard Chartered Bank trying to close down half of their branches The fintech guys are chasing them out of the market, which means a lot of people lose their money, and they can also do their job that they're doing. They are not intent to reduce the volume of activity, but with fewer people and technology, they want to drive that. So we've seen cost management. Given the high inflation environment, it is better to manage costs. So any business that wants to remain relevant will have to look at their costs again. And they have to focus on value creation because there must be innovation at that level for you to be able to say, look, you have to think at what other value can I add, because competition is biting hard. Today, we have close to 500 fintech companies across Nigeria. Lastly, be proactive, not reactive, which means businesses should not wait for things to happen before they start thinking, oh, we didn't know it's going to happen. So you should know that this year is going to be challenging. Honestly, it's a little bit even late now if you are not thinking. But it's better late now than you never know. It's still January. So we can begin to do a rethink and do better thinking. So look at the global economy, look at Nigerian economy, and begin to move. I say a big thank you to all. If there's any poser, and I'll already take. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad, for the very insightful session there. Sorry about it. I'm sure that we all are looking at these figures and the presentation with a lot of mixed feelings, saying we're seeing the good things and we're seeing the other side of it, and we're saying where are we going to be. Fortunately enough, that is about life, and you just have to take advantage of what it presents to you. And as a nation, I'm sure that we will be able to harness the opportunity that this comes with. This reminds me of a popular paper from the Harvard Business School that says Nigeria opportunity in crisis. So in every crisis, there will always be opportunities, and then that opportunity, I hope we're able to harness it. Thank you very much once again for the very insightful and thought-provoking paper. We will take a 5-minute break, after which we will go into the panel session. The reason we're going to do this is that the doctor that is going to speak to us about sustainability is unfortunately not available. And so we will cut this program a little bit shorter. We'll take a 5-minute break. Thereafter, we'll introduce our panelists and go into the panel session. Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, who is this? Hello, sir.
Development Outlook 2022. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. So right now, we're just going to go right into the discussion panel proper. And I'd like to call upon our panelists for today, who will give us their insights on the topic at hand, which is Nigeria's Economic and Development Outlook 2022. So I'll call them right away. First of all, we're going to call up Alhaji Aliu Akoshile. Alhaji Akoshile is the publisher and editor-in-chief of Nature News and Climate Africa. You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me.
So I'd also like to call upon Mr. Abramaleki. Kindly put on your video. Mr. Abramaleki is the president, Zero Interest Multipurpose Cooperative Society Limited. I'd also like to call upon Dr. Jibril Salaudin of the Nungu Business School.
Morning.
Alaikum salam. Welcome, you're welcome on board. And I'd also, last but not the least, Dr. Mohammed Salaudin, Chairman, Nungu Business School. Would like you to please join the discussion. Okay, you're welcome on board, sir. So, we'll just go right into the discussion proper so that we do not keep, we've heard so much from Dr. Salaudin in the earlier lecture, the earlier discussion, and I'm sure there's so much more that needs to be, discussed, rehashed, and looked at properly so that we all go forward, getting the very best that we can out of the Nigerian economy. So I'd like to invite each of the panelists to kindly, give us their thoughts, share your thoughts on Nigeria's economic and development outlook, and what has it been like in the past, what is it now, and what are we looking to in 2022? Alhaji Akoshile, would you like to start, please?
Okay, thank you so much once again, the moderator. It's a great pleasure to be invited to this discussion. The topic is very germane. We have entered the year actually, and as Dr. Salaudin said, if any organization has not, as we speak, done the needful in terms of creative innovation and business sustainability, one would say it must be getting late, but it's better late than never. We still have 11 months into the year. Having said that, I will also say that the presentation has been so clinical. It is a major X-ray of the previous years, and especially looking at the global trend, dovetailing it to Africa, and of course, specifically to Nigeria's situation. As far as the analysis is concerned, I think it's been very comprehensive. But let me address the Nigerian situation, because I cannot fault what he has done globally in terms of the views, the challenges from, what the world has gone through, looking at the power dynamics, technology, human geography, and all that. And of course, the global GDP, composition showing that while Nigeria declined, for instance, in 2020 by 1.8%, you will see that United Kingdom, had a decline of almost 10%, 9.9 the same year. So while we can say, yes, things are not looking good, but at the same time, when we speak comparatively, you will see that our situation is bad, but not the worst. And we can, move from that position of weakness to a position of growth and strength. The trend he identified for 2022 are also very apt. Looking at the trade relations, the pandemic, oil price, capital inflow, human capital, and the rest. Now, this is where I will make some slight departure. I mean, not disagreeing with him, but of course, adding a new dimension. Because if you look at the main drivers of Nigeria's GDP in the last 3 years, up to 2021, in the year 2019, for instance, agric was number 1. In the year 2020, also agric was number 1, and 2021. In 2019, trade and investment came second, and also in 2020. But in 2021, infotech, digital technology and economy overtook trade and investment. So the ranking changed in 2021, whereas it was agri, trade and investment, digital in 2020 and 2021 as the main drivers of Nigeria's GDP. In 2019 and 2020. But in 2021, the ranking was agri, info, tech, and trade and investment, meaning that now there is a shift, which is also about sustainability thinking. Before now, the focus has been, actually oil and gas, but now you can see clearly that oil and gas did not even come the first 3. Now, the point of addition I wanted to make to the narrative for 2022 is that I've not heard anything about the issue of climate change. You see, globally today, no matter what has been the main drivers of your economy, of your GDP in the past years, 2021 going to 2025 will be totally different. The world today is talking about climate change, about the environment, and how this is going to impact on business sustainability. If, for instance, Nigeria, as I said, in the last 3 years, agriculture has been the main driver of our GDP. Now, what is the implication of climate change on this agriculture? If we are not careful, climate change will affect our agriculture in such a way that agriculture may even come forth if care is not taken. Of course, when you take climate change, environment, you have to relate it to security, insecurity, which has a correlation actually, because all this issue of migration, all the issue of people looking for greener pasture because of climate change is leading to insecurity in many regions of the world, not only in Nigeria or in Africa. So what I'm trying to say is that every business in the year 2020 going forward has to look critically at how the impact of the climate can affect their business. I've seen what businesses must do in terms of agility, scale, digital platform, cost management, value creation, and proactiveness. Yeah, they now have to add, the issue of sustainability as a major point. And sustainability in this case, I was glad. Yeah, Nigeria is going to have the biggest, refinery in the world. My fear is that by the time we are ready to commission the biggest refinery in the world, possibly the world may have moved away from fossil fuel. Of course, there are other value chains that can be created out of that. And I can mention that, look, today, there is no technology that you will do that what they call graphene will not feature in technology. Graphene is another it's a nanotech material that was popularized some years back. And in 2014 or so, I think President Obama mentioned graphene as the most valuable material in the world He said the world has discovered, of course, it wasn't discovered then, but it was popularized, that the world has discovered a material that is lighter than paper, but stronger than steel. That is graphene. So our biggest refinery in the world, if we have to start to be creative and adapt, must have a necessary value extension that will take us to using the graphite or aspartame from the byproduct of the refinery to produce graphene. Graphene is used in everything, whether you are talking of electric car, battery, everywhere. So for me, I mean, I'm just taking that as an example of how a business in Nigeria, because we are thinking of how a business can survive. I mean, given the analysis that Dr. Salaudin did, the evidence is alarming. I mean, it's very grim. But then a serious business has to do two things, you know, to show adaptation and to show resilience. Adaptation and resilience are things that every business organization will have to look into to be able to survive the challenges ahead. And in summary, I agree with all he said, but I'm adding that, look, a business, even countries, and luckily today, I mean, this year, the United Nations Convention on population, I mean, on climate change, we'll be having the COP, the Conference of Parties in Africa. In the last 30 years or so, it has been held outside Africa. The last one was in Glasgow, just last November. This is the very first year in 30 years or so, about 19 years, going to 30 years, that Africa will be hosting the United Nations Convention on Climate Change. Now they are bringing this to our back here. Every business organization has to look at the windows of how they could, harness the import of the discussion to be able to create sustainability for their business, either in the banking sector, in the insurance, in the agri. All these organizations have every opportunity. So I'm saying that we have to, the discussion cannot be complete, you know, without adding the issue of environmental impact, climate change to the narrative for 2022. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your insights. That's another angle, looking at it from the effects and influence of climate change on Nigeria's economy and development. Thank you very much, sir. I'm sure there will be questions and further points that you need to share with us later. So I'm going to call upon Mr. Gramaleki. Kindly share your thoughts on the topic of discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to thank Dr. Muhammad Salaudin and Alhaji Aliyu Akoshile for that very insights that have been shared. And I think one of the key areas I wanted to mention, they also have mentioned it, and which is on the issue of the change in the position of agriculture, as it were, agriculture being the leading contributor to our GDP, outside of oil before, and then now we have it moving a little down. And I quite agree with Alhaji Akoshile that yes, of course, it is not only the banditry issue that has affected agriculture. The banditry issue is only what I can call a symptom. The underlying cause itself, one of the major underlying causes, or one of the major underlying causes of fueling the banditry and farmer header clashes, issue of the climate change. The chart as virtually dried up. We're not doing anything differently around it. The whole of the people in the Lake Chad Basin are not doing anything that we can see visibly to make an improvement there. Of course, that's going to affect a lot of things. Agriculture revolves around water. That is the major driver of agriculture. If it's rice farming, but rice farming drains a lot of water. In fact, sometimes some people believe it's not sustainable, as it were, because of the volume of water that is involved in rice farming. Even in cattle rearing, where we want to do ranching, a lot of resources water resources that goes into that, it's very, very heavy. So to a large extent, it is affecting agriculture, and so that's one of the major reasons, and not only banditry, that is leading to decline in agriculture. That's one. Then the second part that I would want to really talk about is the rise of digitalization in terms of its contribution to GDP, which I think is something we really, really need to open a new conversation around. We have the traditional banking system. The traditional banking system is currently being seriously challenged to an extent that from the last report we had, Stanbic IBTC wants to reduce its branches by about 50%. That's huge. And also that same Stanbic IBTC is requesting CBN to allow it to start a fintech company. So that is what that is telling us is this, that in 2022 and beyond, digitization, financial technology generally will rule the world. And from what experience has shown us, that greater percentage of those fintech companies start with microfinance license. Start with a cooperative license. Now, what this tells us is this, that there's a gold mine in the cooperative system that we're not looking at. And unless something drastic is done around it, then we might be losing a very, very potent driver of our economy. Today, I operate in the cooperative space. But I can tell you the kind of regulation, the kind of the ecosystem is not robust enough to help harness the potentials there. Because if the potentials there are fully harnessed, the issue of poverty reduction, the issue of financial inclusion can be largely addressed more by the microfinance banks, even more than can be largely addressed by the cooperative, even more than the microfinance banks. So what we are saying in essence is this, that we really want to trickle down, because Nigeria as a country is growing to a large extent, growing very well, but that is the vertical growth is there, but the horizontal. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you. I got that right. Thank you for the correction. That the Standard Chartered Bank is reducing its branches by 50%, and it is the Stanbic IBTC that wants to start a fintech. I think I mixed it. Thank you very much for that information. So, in essence, what we are bringing out here is this: that major big bank in Nigeria wants to reduce its branches by 50%. The Standard Chartered. It shows that technology will take over. If technology will take over in terms of managing its growing number of clients, it means that, yes, it means what this tells us is more people will most likely join our currently overbloated job market. Now, that's number one on one side. Secondly, if Stanbic IBTC now wants to set up a fintech company, it means that most of its customers will be managed through the fintech system. What that tells us again is that another set of people, even though those banks are promising us they are not going to lose jobs in the short run, that will be most likely just be in the short run. In the long run, they might most likely be some loss of jobs. There's no gainsaying. It might be some deliberate, planned easing out of the staff. Then what that tells us is this: if this happens, what will be next? What is the next? Because today we have the unemployment figure in Nigeria is so high then we need to ask ourselves, which industry can or has the capacity to absorb? To me, off the cuff, after having done my own review, the industry that I think will be able to absorb is agriculture and its value chain. Then the next question now is, what are we doing? How are we able to revolutionize our agriculture such that it will be able to make the desired impact in terms of reduction in unemployment? And finally, on the thought I was sharing on the issue of fintech, which I also want Nungu Business School to take this up as a major challenge, is the issue of financial technology and the cooperative. I said cooperative is very, very important, but currently the cooperative ecosystem, the cooperative management framework, the cooperative regulatory framework is not positioning it well for the role it has to play. This is a question for all practitioners, for all experts in this industry. If we want to save this country, that we must do something differently. Thank you very much, Dimon.
I guess you're muted.
Yes, I can hear.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Thank you very much, Mr. Lecky, for your insights on the effect of fintech and IT on the economic landscape of Nigeria. Of course, we have seen what the effect has been over time in other countries, and we all know that that's the way forward. But how can we harness it to actually push Nigeria's development and economy further than it is right now? So I'd like to call upon Dr. Jibril Salaudeen to kindly share his thoughts on the issue at hand, on the topic at hand. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. And like Elijah Brahman, like he said, the presentation from the first three contributors to this presentation have been wonderful. And honestly, I would not want to paraphrase them, but what they brought in terms of contribution has been very great. My thoughts this morning is just limited majorly to 3 items. I will speak briefly about agriculture, and I will speak briefly about the African Free Trade Zone, and I'll speak briefly about our skill sets as Nigerians. And so those are the 3 major areas that I would like to speak to briefly as we go along. First, as agriculture, as much as we want to speak about agriculture and say that we've contributed this and that to agriculture, we're a failure in agriculture. Our tomato has always been tomato the way it has been in the last 50 years, and nothing we've added to it. The yam has always been the same tuber of yam we brought from the farm, the same way it's been in the last 50 years. Nothing has been added to it. Our cocoa has been the same cocoa. Nothing has been added to it. We harvest them raw and export them raw. No processing. Now, agriculture is not like that. I remember the chairman of the African Development Bank saying to us that agriculture is not about feeding, it's a big business. So we need to see what to do to add to the processing of agriculture. Only yesterday, I still saw a basket of tomato being brought in trucks from the north into Lagos, with about 20 to 30 or 40% in some instances getting damaged. This is not agriculture. We need to really look at the entire value chain and what we need to add to it. Again, in the last 6 months, I've been doing quite a lot of traveling, and I've seen that we have not desisted from our traditional agricultural practice. We still want to feed 230 million people with hoes and cutlasses. This is not going to work for us. Yes, when we are 50 million, when we are 30 million, that would have worked for us. But at 240 million people, feeding them with hoe and cutlasses is a big mistake. I think we need to take another look at that. Now, talking about the African Free Trade Zone, This is about the best opportunity that we have as a nation. If you look at the position of Nigeria in Africa, it gives us an advantageous position to participate actively in the African Free Trade Zone. In terms of number, there is no country in Africa that can afford a refugee from Nigeria. There is no country we will not overrun. So, talking of the number, we have a good and a huge advantage. And do you know that it is easier for you to send a letter from Nigeria to America than to send a letter from Nigeria to Gambia? Try it. We participated in a bid as Nungu Business School in the Gambia, and we tried to send in a letter. It was more tedious sending a letter from Nigeria to Gambia than sending a letter from Nigeria to the United States of America. Again, for people who are into Korea business, this could be an opportunity for you. And you can look at this and say, now that we're setting up an African Free Trade Zone, can I have a system that can take parcel and deliver parcel all across of Africa? This can be wonderful, and this can be great. Another thing you want to look at is transportation, haulage. Cobalt 22, one of the transport companies in Nigeria, can only go to 12 African countries. That's the max it can do out of 50 or 52 countries. So we don't have an established transport system that goes across of Africa. So in transportation, huge gap. Doing trade among ourselves requires that other people will be coming to Africa to also trade. Now, we need to also take a look at what we produce in Nigeria and the quality of what we produce. Do we have an advantage of scale? That the quality and the quantity for which we want to distribute to other parts of Africa, we're able to bring it up quickly? I think we need to look at this as well, because it's going to impact us one way or the other. Lastly, I want to speak about the skill sets. We speak so much about unemployment, that we have unemployment in the nation, we have graduates who are unemployed, we have artisans who are unemployed, and we have unskilled labor that are not employed. The question is, are they employable? Can any one of us say, I can take a fresh graduate from a Nigerian university and put him into a job? That's the challenge. I think we need to take another look at the skill sets. If you employ a Nigerian tiler, it's a different kettle of fish. A Nigerian carpenter is a different kettle of fish. So the skill sets, we need to take another look at our vocational and technical education and how they impact on our overall development. A country like Bangladesh supplies one of the largest non-made clothes for children are made in Bangladesh. And they've done pretty well with this. I think it's hard time we begin to look at that direction, so that the notes are still in the 70s, the meeting points. So if you want to do entrepreneurship, you ask yourself, at what point does entrepreneurship meet academics? The lines are very thin. We are having theoretical entrepreneurs teachers who don't know anything about the practicality of the teaching on the field. And these are areas where I think we need to begin to look at the skill set to bring up the skill of our people, and so we become much more employable. Those are my contributions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So much has been said about the African Free Trade Zone. Although on a general basis, a lot of information is out there that unfortunately a lot of the SMEs are not yet harnessing. So that's another thing that we need to talk a little bit more about, and then looking at how to develop the skill sets, how to generally change the mindset of the average Nigerian to accepting more of these things, because a lot of these changes need to be made as soon as possible. But we also have to consider what can be done in the short run to be able to guide us through what to do in the medium and long term. So I'd like to call upon Dr. Mohammed Salahuddin. He has already shared so much with us earlier today, but I'm sure he probably has one or two more ideas or insights that would be useful to this discussion. So please, Dr. Salahuddin, can you kindly unmute and probably switch on your video? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's quite interesting. I like the contributions that are very, very soul-searching and keeps us thinking very deeply. But talking about developing skills, talking about SMEs, growing economy, and looking at kind of skills that we have in different areas, I would like to look at some numbers in terms of cities in Nigeria, where we have the economy of those cities growing more than the others, because they have a lot of artisans that are very good, a lot of people that are small SMEs that are doing very well and they are active. I look at cities like Nnewi. In 2021, they grew by about 29.6% in terms of their growing economic growth, which means more and more SME are coming in, more and more production activities are happening in Nnewi. We go to look at a city like Uyo, they grew 28.3% in terms of growth last year against 2020, which means more and more people are getting engaged in these cities. The same thing with Port Harcourt, 25.6%. Then Onitsha. Onitsha has traditionally been a city of people that are very, very fast and very, very energetic. All these cities that are the main driver of the economy. If an average city in Nigeria could operate like this, including Abuja, also made 28.4%. And interestingly, you find out that there's some tribes, some set of people from one part of the country that are growing this. What's happening to others? Are they doing something different? Are they going to school? Are they doing some other businesses? On average, all the cities that I've mentioned have grew the economy, their own economy, by 27.36% during this period, which means there are some people whose business is SMEs. And I tell you, in terms of the contribution to the GDP of this country, the SME has contributed over 90% to the GDP of this country. So it means even the businesses that we are looking at, all the Nestle of this world, the MTN, and we're looking at the figures, the numbers a while ago in my presentation, they are not the main driver of the economy. They are not. It's the SMEs. And the SMEs are majorly coming from these areas. What are the others doing? So, and if we now break this thing down into something a little bit different from what I've shared in terms of SMEs and cities adding value, we will notice that there's been steady increase in prices of, let's go do microeconomics now. Me and you go to the market today, we go and buy something as small as cooking gas. We know what happened to cooking gas in last year and now. 3,600 in 2020 to 8,200 average in 2021. We've seen that. We've seen rents in hotels, of houses from different parts of the country, in different area, going up. And these are houses that have been built over a long time. What happened to our housing system? Is it that we don't have houses? If you want to fly, it's different rate. We have seen the price of diesel. Today, travel diesel is about 350 naira. And it was 195 naira 2020. So we look at micro, let's come to things that me and you buy on a daily basis. We want to buy chicken, we want to buy beans, we want to buy pure water, we want to buy sardine, and even flour. This price, on average, have jumped. Look at it synthetically by over 88%, which means what I earn this year is not likely going to be able to buy me as much as I want to buy, or it has bought for me last year, because my salary is not likely going to change. But if I'm doing business and have opportunity to grow my business in terms of SME, and I get kind of support from whoever is going to support me, whether banks or cooperative societies and the likes, and able to put more and more into business, will I be able to make more money? It is going to be very tough because the disposable income of an average Nigerian is not going up. But more and more people are not even also entering into the labor market because there's no job. But then, are we doing something a little bit different to be able to boost the macroeconomy from the government side, from the cooperative and whatever sides, and individually getting to support the businesses? The government, we've had several, have been giving money for empowerment program, give 100,000 if you attended 2, 3 courses, and people have turned into business. So people now go for empowerment program. I know a lot of empowerment programs that are happening in Lagos after 1 day course, and teach you how to make soap, teach you how to make Kampala clothes, and they give you 100,000 to go and start business. You leave that one, the 100,000, you chop it, you go and look for another empowerment program by another senator, because each of the senatorial districts, the senators are doing this program. So these are some of the challenges that we have. It is interesting that we must look at it, because these prices will continue to go up. I remember last year, 2021, a kilo of chicken is about 2,200. A year before, it's 1,500. Majority of the chicken are even imported anyway. That's the issue with agriculture again, that we're not making things happen the way it should. And since I know beans, the 50 kg has gone up between 21,000 to 58,000. Between 21,000 in 2020 to 58,000, 166% increase. And these are made locally, which means the agricultural sector has suffered during the period. Even pure water jumped from 50 naira to 100 naira per sachet. So these are things that will affect us going forward unless we're able to tackle it in terms of government coming in to support people, banks coming in to support people. Unfortunately, the banks are not supporting people. They are not the kind of banks that we expect. They are business banks. They are not banks that support that's why in every bank, as every bank announced if you look at their books at the end of the year, they make so much money than the entire country will make in terms of growth percentage. Making so much money because they're not doing the traditional, the normal banking business. So what I'm saying in essence is that it is important that we begin to grow our cities and grow our citizens to make sure that we do more of SME supports in terms of from government and from banks and from cooperative and whatever, then so that we can have disposable income that when people now go to the market, the inflation rate will have dropped enough or normalized below the double digits that we have, to at least single digits, so that people can continue to thrive and people can continue to survive without begging and harassing everybody for money. That's my contribution in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. That is another angle that one would probably not have considered before now. So right now we'll just go into, there's so many points that have been raised. We'll go into the question and answer session so that our participants, or rather our audience, can also ask questions, and the panelists would answer. So I'll go first. Please give me the honor to do so. My question is this, please. I'd like to know what the short and medium-term solutions to all the issues that have been raised are, looking at them from the individual, the SME, and then government and policy levels. What are the short and medium-term solutions? What can we do right now to start to make a change?
You have not directed your question to anybody.
Oh, I'm okay. Alhaji Akoshile, could we have your insights on that?
Okay, thank you so much. At least you have taken the honor of asking the first question, which is good. Yes, you see, short-term, medium-term strategy for each of these challenges. Let me first of all say, I love the perspective that Dr. Jibril, shared in respect of the discussion we have had. It is not enough to say we are number one or agric is driving our, GDP, but what are we making out of it? Today in Nigeria, you see Gari being sent from China, branded Gari, our own Gari, being branded from China and sent to Nigeria to be sold. You see crayfish, you see yam flour, yam being taken to China to be processed. So in other words, we are helping them to grow their economy. So you see the short-term strategy for an individual in this situation, first of all, is to analyze the situation and look at the possibility of where one can plug in to take advantage of the opportunities. As we speak today, yes, we are not there, by any standard. but in an incremental way. Government is coming up with policies, either Empower or whatever you call it. Yes, they may look small, maybe 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. An individual that wants to start, doing something, and it doesn't take rocket science. The other day I watched on NTA News, a graduate. Yeah, you may say maybe he's going out of his something. The guy started making beans cake, akara, and gradually he's employing like 15 people who are working with him. He has a business that is ongoing. People are making order for that. I mean, that is a way to start. He wouldn't wait until he has employment with CBN or with oil and gas or with Dangote refinery. So, I mean, that person has been able to identify an opportunity in whatever, in the confused system that we run, and is been able to plug into it. But long term for an individual is to say, look, what are the things that will drive the future? Because today, I mean, I'm happy some of our young chaps in the universities are beginning to look beyond the now and immediate. Only yesterday again, I read in a paper, a graduate, a student, did a mobile, car, I mean, a solar car, whatever, as his final year project. I mean, this guy, that means he's already looking into the future as well. The product he has done, you can say, is a luxury, but the point, the bottom line, the main message is that, look, this guy is looking into the future. It's an electric car. So, in other words, he is already thinking beyond today for that product. And if he has a big company that can say, look, come over, give us your innovation. This is a disruptive innovation. Can you scale it? Is it scalable? Is it something that we can patent and all that? So individual has for SME. You see, the SMEs are in a precarious situation in our country today, I must confess. And maybe some of us too, I mean, if you look at our balance sheet, you may say, we are also roughly SMEs. If you set up a small business today, even on the roadside, the council people will bring a ticket for standing ticket. You pay ticket for putting up your table. You give a tax for breathing the air where you are standing. So at the end of the day, you have like 20 government agencies, para-government agencies, and agberos, everybody coming to ask you for money. And what is the total value of the business the person is doing? Maybe some thousands of naira, whatever. So that in itself is killing. So, I mean, that is where government has a role, a big role to play. The bulk of what we are talking, even if you want to do value chain, and they agree as an extension, if the infrastructures are not there, today, if you want to set up a factory, a small factory to process cassava into gari or whatever, possibly you may have to do your own, power set, whether solar or whatever. You have to sink your own, or if your factory is in the farm, you have to do the road, you have to do everything. So you are a government on your own. So that alone, government has a lot to do. Dr. Salahuddin talked about, the banks. Yeah, you see huge profits. The short term that government can do is to put policies. And I don't think in that aspect, we are all guilty. Even where policies are put in place, it is individual who will help the people to subvert it. How many of them are paying the required tax, in order to enable them? Because if you have trillions of profits and the economy is suffering, then there's a mismatch. If you are doing business and at the end of the year, your balance sheet, you have a profit that is, more than the cumulative GDP of a country. And yet the masses of the people, the per capita income is so poor. Then there is something that is amiss. It's either policy are not properly put in place, or there is a system, a capa that is subverting this policy at the stage of implementation. So for me, I think the government has a lot to do. Really, we always say, yeah, government cannot do everything. Yeah, we know, but government has a lot to do. And I think this is my preliminary submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Very insightful answer. So we'd like to take a question from Dr. Adam Abubakar. Kindly unmute yourself to ask your question.
Okay, thank you, Madam Moderator, and I wish to thank all our panelists and resource person of Dr. Mama Salahuddin, who has done a very good job at the beginning. We thank you all. We really enjoy this program. Firstly, I just want to talk on the agricultural sector, particularly the analysis made by one of the panelists in regard to the shift that we have in the development of these drivers of the economy, particularly the agri sector. And I also want to concur with the submission of Dr. Jibril Salahuddin on our traditional agricultural practice. No doubt that Nigeria remains a largest exporter and exporter of raw material, and we still remain importer of the final and processed products. And this habit indeed need to be changed. I think my question at this juncture is to what extent does this shift in the agricultural development that we experienced in the past couple years affect the commodity aspect of the market? Because I don't know whether I was carried away somehow. I couldn't see this question is directly to Dr. Mohammed Salahuddin. That is the relationship between this growth in the agri sector and the relationship to the commodity market. My second question goes to Dr. Jibril Salahuddin on the issue of this high cost of business in general within the Africa and even West African subcontinent, compared to if you take it to other countries, for example, Europe or even Asia and America. For example, as he has just highlighted that the Korea business, if you are taking a letter from Nigeria to USA, is cheaper than taking it to Gambia. And even when it comes to traveling, for example, to travel to Conakry in Guinea, Conakry, which is part of West Africa, is even cheaper, which is less than 2,000 kilometers. It's cheaper to go to Malaysia, which is about 12,000 kilometers. So please, what are the economic factors that affect these discrepancies? This question goes to Dr. Jibril Salahuddin. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Mohammed, your question, kindly answer the question.
Yeah, thank you very much. The issue of agriculture that has grown in terms of the economy, except for last year, which it declined by 1.2% because of the challenges that we had. But then, in the last few years, there's been a major driver of the economy in terms of GDP. The challenge with agriculture is that it has been highlighted here, it's highlighted by some of the participants, by contributors here, that look, we're not adding value to agriculture. So if you look at the commodity as in terms of agriculture, I want to take your commodity, the meaning of your commodity, because the commodity to a farmer is different from commodity to an economist like this. Because if you talk economy, commodity, now we're looking at something different. But then I understand, I take it that what you mean by, look, by the product that we bring, that we, in terms of agricultural growth, in terms of output, it's been very fine and it's been growing. In spite of even all the challenges we have, we must tell ourselves the truth that we're not doing bad in terms of year-on-year volume, but it can be better. But the major challenge is that it will not show in the commodity in terms of prices and usage because we're not adding value. There's no extension in terms of value to this agriculture for us to get. That is why my brother said that, look, if you go, how come they will bring gari processed from China to Nigeria? Doesn't make sense. Are we not the one that made gari? Can we just package it? Can we process it and send it abroad and get $1? Because again, sending raw gari or yam to them, they now make yam and now send yam flour back to us. Can't we add value to it? Yes, I've seen that done in Nigeria, but then are we doing it well? So, but the thing is that whatever we have done and without no value addition, we're still not going to get the benefit, no matter how we produce. Yesterday or so that they were trying to show us the pyramid in Abuja. I don't think that makes sense to me. I'm sorry. Because the things that have been shown in Abuja is not grown in Abuja. Someone said that by now we'll have been self-sufficient in rice production. It should be beyond self-sufficient in rice production. We should be exporting rice. So these are the kind of commodity that we should have in abundance so that we can take advantage of the African Free Continental Trade Zone, because we are the giants. We can bully everybody. See, when it comes to international trade and business, the people that survive are the bullies. No matter what America is doing today in terms of harassing the world, harassing China, China is still bullying and they are moving and they are going very fast. So until you do that, if you sorry about my language, but that is the reality in international trade. You have to show your strength. You have massive population. You have the largest GDP. What advantage are you taking of it? So produce more in terms of agriculture and export more, add value so that you can export. Because if the African Free Continental Trade opens up and you are not adding value to whatever you're producing, other countries will beat you to it. Thank you very much. That's my contribution to that.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Jibril, there's a question for you as well about the high cost of doing business.
Yes. Dr. Adam, thank you very much. Nice having you again this morning. It's been a while. You see, there's a lot of challenge. And one of the things that irritates me, I just sent a post to Alhaji Aliyu actually that I said to him, God bless you, sir, because he just touched exactly how it pains in one's heart. I'm holding something in my hand. I don't know how many of you can see what I'm holding. See it? As I've known
yes, it's a broom.
Yes, and this is made in China. This is made in China. My wife bought it, made in China. That is what the Yoruba woman will use after she has prepared ewedu. They call it owojabe, to filter it. And this is $10. Boom, $10. I said nobody must use it. I have to seize it. Now, these are some of the madness that we're going through. It's so annoying. When Akosile Ali said this thing, I was just so, he just answered the question for me. There is a mad crave for things that are foreign. They say there's a mad crave for it. The Indians used to be like that until they had a policy of be India, buy India. Now, so let me move away from that. The major challenge for doing business across of Africa, why it's so huge and expensive, is because of lack of infrastructure and policies. Dr. Ahmed, you remember that I asked you about 2 months ago that how do I travel to Niger Republic? Now, the reason why I asked that question was that somebody here in Lagos, a younger brother of mine, traveled to Niger Republic. And when he finished calculating his return ticket, it's over ₦1 million.
Exactly.
To travel to the Niger Republic. Meanwhile, Dr. Mohammed will know that when we're in Kano, to travel from Kano to Niger Republic is like just going to visit the next village for us.
Yes.
Us, we travel by road, and then we're in the Niger Republic. But who dare apply? Dr. Adamu, you schooled in Niger Republic before Malaysia. You know
yes.
That. Yes, and you know that going to Niger Republic today is like even worse, sentencing himself to death by hanging, by road. So the trouble is, one, the infrastructures are not there. The African leaders have not thought it among themselves to come together and say, this is the infrastructure that is going to work. When people talk about government building the business for Africa, I said, I disagree. All we need them to do is to put the policy in place. Because the people who build business are the people. I read the book, The Men Who Build America, not the government who build America. So one, there is a space in that, and we can quickly take advantage of it. I saw the Korea stuff and I said, this is a huge opportunity. How do we take advantage of that? Second, if you want to send fish from Chad to Nigeria, it's a hell. But if you can build a bridge around that, that is fantastic for us to be able to do a lot of businesses. So logistics is still a problem across of Africa. And we need to put infrastructure in place to solve those logistics. I think that I'll stop here for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Jubril. We have a few more questions, which we'll take very quickly. I'm sorry, after the 3, we may not be able to take any more. So I'd like to call on Mr. Tajuddin Alabede to kindly ask his question. 1 second, please. Okay. Kindly unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, I've unmuted myself. Thank you. First, I want to commend the organizers.
You're actually breaking up. I think it's your network. Probably you could shift a little bit.
Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. I have 2 questions. The first, an agreement among the panelists and the speaker that SM, I just want to ask a very simple question, that key takeaways, maybe 3 things that we feel that SMEs need to do this year to make a difference in 2022, particularly going forward. Then secondly, with regards to government, the government controls the economic environment in terms of policy. And in Nigeria, we have 3 layers of governance: the federal, state, and local government. I don't know if our panelists and our speaker can help us in getting us some specific insight into what we expect each of these layers of governance of government to do. Maybe 3 things that we feel, okay, the federal government is play, 3 things that state government to do, and 3 things that local government needs to do differently so that we can have better.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alabede. So I'd like to call on Mr. Abraman Lekki, kindly highlight, no, I'd like you to really talk about the, I'll take the second question first, on the specific things that you think government can do at the federal, state, and local government level going forward, especially for 2022, to have a fantastic year.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think what they need to do, there are different areas that they need to do different things. One of the key areas, of course, we have highlighted some of the key issues that will most likely affect us or our economy going forward. One of it, I think, was the issue of the unemployment and agriculture. And some of the drivers that we all agreed on it is on the possibilities that exist in this African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Now, just about 2 days ago, we read that the federal government of, the African Union, the Secretariat of African Free Trade Agreement, and the African Import-Export Bank, they agreed on a framework for this African payment system that allows ease of exchange of the currencies of within the African continent, and I think which I think is something great. Before now, for us to trade among ourselves in Africa, you need a third-party currency to convert the currency within African countries. But now, if that payment settlement system, PAPS, that payment settlement system is put in place and infrastructure is fully endorsed, that is what makes Africa really, not even the currency. I'm not a fan of one single currency yet, but if we are able to either in West Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, or the whole of Africa, that we're not ripe for a single currency yet, not even necessary. What we need majorly is what was agreed about 2 days ago. If that thing is given the serious support that is required, Africa becomes a single market. If Africa becomes a single market, like Dr. Mohammed has said, like Dr. Mohammed Salahuddin has said, Nigeria being the largest country in Africa, and we have the capacity to be there, to be a bully in Africa, if a bully in quote, then it means that's a big opportunity for us for investment and to spread. That's one side of it. So we need the federal government to put serious back into that, so that Africa, Nigerians will be able to explore Africa as an economic and business zone. That's what I expect of the federal government. But on the issue of agriculture and unemployment, I have a different approach to it. The government continues to do what it can do. I don't think the government will be able to do more than that, in my own humble opinion. For instance, look at all of the interventions the CBN has done in the last 4 years. It's been massive. But those interventions, how has it been able to move us to the next level? That is where I mentioned the issue. Look, there are three things that are related there. We just highlighted the contribution of digitalization to our GDP. We also mentioned that digitalization will make electioneering more transparent. So what is that telling us? And the majority of the unemployed people in Nigeria, who also either by one way or the other, by providence or by definition, fall within the poverty circle, are the youth. And they are the same people who are the most technology savvy. And those same people refuse to go into politics or refuse to participate in political process, such that they will be able to elect people who will do what should be done. Because when we say government is not one distant somebody somewhere. We are all government. It is the people who put in position that becomes government. So if digitization is a process that will help engender this system, then I don't think it is left to government. It is left for us to become the government and rewrite governance. Then we can begin to, but if this set of people are people that comes to election year in, year out, they have exhausted what they think is best for them, what they think they can do for you. But what other things do they need to do in terms of real engagement of the youth, real engagement of the active population in supporting them to harness those benefits? But those benefits are just thrown at them in the open, as it were. They get the benefits, use the funds to continue to do what they do, not using the funds to do things differently. Somebody needs to deliberately take that up on helping, for instance, the farmers to be able to use the funds to improve their output, to be able to use the fund to make value addition to their output in order to increase their own income and the GDP of the whole country as a whole. So that thought process, I am afraid, I think the current government as is constituted may not be able to do all of it. We need fresh hands, and we need to explore and harness digitization, as it were, to be able to achieve that.
Thank you very much, sir. The next question will be from Madam Titilola Oshinowo. Kindly unmute yourself. After her, we have just one more person, Mr. Gidado. Mr. Gidado, please hold on.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you to the facilitators for the presentation. Okay, my first question goes to Dr. Mohammed Salahuddin. Relating to his presentation when he spoke about the currency performance across African countries and the similarity between Angola and Nigeria. So I know they're quite similar. We're both oil producing countries, but I wanted to know, what did Angola do that made their currency appreciate, right? We've said most African currencies depreciated in the last 3 years. So what did Angola do differently? And we're in the same oil market, and we both saw the oil dip, and at some particular time before it came up and all that. So what did they do differently? Then the second question relates to the area where he spoke on foreign investments, right? I wanted to have a view, considering that we're going into an election year, and we know that, I mean, in an election year, there's so much uncertainty, and foreign investors already are kind of hesitant. We've seen since 2021, there's been a decline in foreign investment inflows, right? So what do you think that how does that impact us? What do you see, or what would you predict regarding foreign investment flows, and how does that impact us as a common man? And then my last contribution, this is just a contribution, was on the question regarding what the government should be doing as a solution. My contribution is coming from the, I read an article that the former executive director of the Nigerian Investment Promotion Corporation gave, Yewande Sadiko, and it was actually a very good tell-all. And she spoke so much about, what could impact investment flows and the reason for the issues we're having and all that. And she talked about the impact of policies. We've seen a lot of policy somersaults, different directions. CBN is driving a lot of things, which, very good from a social welfare perspective, but you see the direction of the Ministry of Finance and all that. So there are so many different policies, and somehow they are not kind of like consolidated or going towards the same direction that would help investment flows. So she made a very strong point about having that same direction for our policies to be able to help us in improving our investments. So thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shinawa. So, Mr. Gidado, you may unmute and ask your question, then we'll take all three. Mr. Shamsuddin Gidado. Oh, seems like he's dropped off the call. Okay, Dr. Salahuddin, the questions were directed to you, Dr. Mohammed.
Yes, I'm sure I can recall the first question where we were talking about what did Angola what they do differently? Why do they have a growth in terms of their currency between 2020 and 2021? I think the currency grew by 13.59% over 2020 and 2021. In Angola has oil, and you remember 2-3 years ago, they had issue with a lot of corruption. You remember the lady who was in charge of affairs, the daughter of the president, and the corruption cases, and she was prosecuted and the rest. After that, I think there was a little bit of air of freedom, and there are a lot of controls in place in Angola, and they don't have subsidy. Not few people chopping the oil money in Angola anymore. So they are not subsidizing their PMS. So if you want to buy PMS in Angola, for instance, it's over 400 naira per liter. So it's not like Nigeria, in spite of the fact that they have it. That's the major driver of the economy. So they are selling money for what they have. That's on Angola in terms of the currency. And then secondly, what we both have together is just that they are oil producing, we are oil producers also. And the second question, can you remind me, please? I can recall the second question.
The second question was about foreign inflows, foreign investment inflows, and the impact of the election year.
Yes. You see, for instance, the data that I showed earlier in terms of percentages showing what the reaction of most countries will be during election. You see, some things work everywhere in the world, and it doesn't work in Nigeria. Sometimes you cannot even explain it. but because it's a peculiar situation. In election year in Nigeria, we've seen that, well, in terms of foreign investments, let's start from that. It is not from the forecast from IMF, World Bank, and Euromonitor. It is expected that the economy will grow by 2.5%. And if the economy is growing by 2.5% from the base of what we have now, we did more than 4% before. So if it's going 2.5%, which means we are not going higher than what we did before, it is likely that investment opportunity will be lower. So whatever it is, you see, the major driver of the Nigerian economy should have been the industries, apart from the SMEs. But the industry is not there because of power. We don't have power, no electricity. That's the major myth that we are missing in every action. We no longer have textile going forward. A lot of industries. Manufacturing Association of Nigeria is the worst association in terms of getting something out of whatever they put together in terms of their money. There's a lot of investment that they can employ people, they can have high outputs to contribute to the economy, but they cannot because the major driver of that sector is power, and the power is not available. Just like it's not available in your home now, except if you are in Magodo and you are paying special rates, or you are GRA in Kenya and you're paying some special rates. So what I'm saying in essence is that investment in Nigeria it's going to be very, very challenging this year. Even the IMF has recommended that we should reduce our interest rates so that we can attract people. They also recommended that we should remove subsidy. And if you remove subsidy, you know what will happen? You're going to buy petrol for not less than 340 naira per liter. What you're buying 165 now, 162. So it is not likely, my prediction is that it is not likely that investment is going to be huge. Coupled with the fact that diaspora fund is not also available. We are also having huge debt, 3.8 trillion is what we are going to use to service debts. So much money going in and out of our economy without positive coming into it. So investment is not like, because people who prefer to invest their money elsewhere. Why diaspora is not coming to Nigeria is because Nigerians abroad are putting their money somewhere else where they can make more money. That is what is happening. So it's not likely that we are going to see that up. And coupled with the fact, in terms of the election now, election it has shown 2015 and 2019. What we have seen is inflation jump from 19% in 2015 and went back to 15% in 2019, which means it dropped further in 2019, even though it's an election year. But what we have seen in the case of Nigeria is that a year before election is when you see huge spends. So which means this is a year before the election in 2023. So we see huge spends, which means people have money, the politicians have money somewhere else, and they put the money into the circulation. But the money is for spend. Usually it's for money for just, the people that will benefit from this election year are the people that are, the media houses will benefit a lot. The marketing people, the branding people, those are the people that will benefit, the people in logistics. Those are the people that will make a lot of money in this year. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that contribution. Shamsuddin Abdurrahman, your hand is still up. Are you there? Please, if you're there, just unmute and ask a question.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Shamsuddin Abdul-Razak, not Abdurrahman. All right, so I like to commend the presentation thus far. So, and I was actually looking at the presentation or the submission of Mr. Abdurrahman Lekki on the idea of the fintech and the cooperatives. So, because I knew quite too well that we have a whole lot of people who are unbanked, and having a population of about 200 or up over 200 million people, we have close to very barely, I think, around 40 million people who have BVN. So that's to tell you that, so if you must operate a bank, you must have a BVN. So we have a large number of people, close to about 150 million people who are not having, what's it called, a bank account. So the people who are unbanked. So I like to ask Mr. Abdurrahman Lekki on how easy is it to set up a fintech like, what's it called, FEM, or the cooperative firm in Nigeria, what are the processes that need to be taken, considering the huge market that is available in that sector? Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Jibril, am I to speak now?
Yes, sir. Yes, brother. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Like I mentioned, the issue of the fintech space, like we said, what basically is a fintech all about? It's about using technology to drive financial inclusion, to drive access to financial products. That is just a summary of the issue of fintech. And what does it require? It means that, and for you to self-finance or help people with access to finance, there are existing platforms that we have in Nigeria. And those platforms are regulated by different strata within the government circle. And I'll give examples of them. For instance, the banks, whichever bank, either a payment service bank or a commercial bank or a merchant bank or a microfinance bank or a financing institution, all of that are regulated by the central bank. Now, when you use technology as a major driver, digitalization, I mean now, as a major driver of dispensing, of making available those products, then you're adopting the financial technology system. Then we also have the Security and Exchange Commission, in one way or the other, in its own terms, also driving access to it through what we call majorly investment and all of that. Then we also have the state government. They have two major financial inclusion or financial service system that they regulate. One of it is the cooperative, and the other one is the money lenders, because it's the state government that issues the money lenders license and the cooperative license. So what most investors do in that space is to look at which one of them is the easiest to access. Which one of those licenses are the easiest to access, as in terms of my own exposure, which is not exclusive now. I think the one of the easiest to access is either the one issued by the state government, which are the cooperative license or the money lenders license. So what those fintech organizations do is to get those licenses and use it as a basis, expand it beyond what they are licensed to do sometimes to offer financial services. So as they scale, as they grow, they begin to get bigger licenses and all of that. So today, it still remains a possibility that can be explored, even though I think to a large extent, as Dr. Jubil analyzed a few days ago, we can begin to see some level of abuse around there. And what this tells us, what this points to us, is that the state government, most importantly, need to begin to do something differently around the cooperative. My experience and exposure within the cooperative system shows two things. Number one, it's a very, very potent platform for wealth redistribution, financial inclusion, and poverty alleviation and eradication, as it were. Very potent, a gold mine. But despite the fact of being a gold mine, it is still like a system sitting on the kettle of gunpowder. So if we're not careful, the gold mine will explode, and hopefully it will not be beyond redemption. So as it were, to answer your question directly, I think it's a potent system. It's available for us to use. It is still easy to adopt any of those methods and run some financial inclusion systems, and as best as possible, make the best of the economy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aleki. Dr. Jubril, perhaps you have a comment or two on the question in the chat box about highlights on opportunities for some and the common man. for the Africa trade.
Yes, Dr.
And then we can round up. Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Mohammed Salahuddin actually said that we should organize a program around the African Free Trade Zone. So we will tidy up that so that we can bring up the opportunities that the people can harness in the African Free Trade Zone to the generality of our people. So we'll be planning that program for February, God willing, and I will deliver that. So by which time we will make sure that everybody is invited so that we can all look at it. We have experts from different parts of the world who have looked at it, and we have also done some in-house work on it. So we'll collaborate together and present the opportunity across the African Free Trade Zone, because we're able to identify 6 major opportunities that we feel they are low-hanging fruits for our people to actually handle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Since there are no more questions, we'd like to bring the session to a close at this point.
Okay, so I think it's good we call on Brother Tajuddin Alabede from the Islamic Impact Centre, which we collaborated together on this program, so that he gives his closing remark as well.
We give thanks to Allah for the opportunity that we have today to have this session, which has been a very insightful one. We want to thank Nungu Business School for the opportunity that we had to collaborate with them to have this session delivered. Essentially, we were to have 2 sessions, 2 parts to make up the whole event, the economic review session and the development review session. Unfortunately, the second speaker, Dr. Abdjalil Adebiyi, took ill in the last few days, so he couldn't participate in the event. We thank all the panelists, the speaker, the chairman of Nungu Business School, Dr. Salahuddin, who has facilitated the interaction, the engagement, the partnership between Nungu Business School and Islamic Impact Center for this event to hold today. We thank you all for the wonderful session that we've had. We've had a lot of issues raised with regards to how we can benefit from the economy and how we can work together as SMEs, as businessmen, as investors, and even as government. Going forward, there have been some general observations that have been made, even outside of this platform, with regards to the choice of panelists. We are going to see how we can convey this to Nungu Business School so that in subsequent years, we can address these issues. It is our hope and prayer that this year, 2022, will bode well for all of us, and we're all going to reap abundant grace of Almighty God from this year and the years that are to come. As the world passes through very major challenges currently, security challenges, economic challenges, climate change issues, issue of sustainability, and so on and so forth, we pray that all of us will be in a very good shape, in good condition to be able to be resilient enough to weather the storm, and for us to be in a position to make a great mark, make a difference in the life of our businesses, as our families, individuals, and the nation and the world at large. So thank you, sirs and ma'ams, for this wonderful time that we've had together. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alabede. Before we close the session, I'd like to call upon Alhaji Rasaki Oladejo, the former Deputy Director General of the Nigeria Stock Exchange. He has been with us practically from the beginning of the session. I would like him to say a few words. Alhaji Oladejo, please. Kindly unmute.
I suspect that they left a while ago.
Oh,
okay. Is he online? Maybe it's not with the device. Is he online? Maybe it's not with the device presently. Thank you.
Okay.
So we can round off, right?
Oh, yes.
So Dr. Mohammed Salahuddin, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We thank God for this opportunity. We thank each and every member of the panelists for their contributions and their presentation. Quite insightful, and we sincerely appreciate every participant for the questions and the responses that we got. We, on behalf of Nungu Business School, like we promised, we'll be coming back with some more details and some more insight into what we can do in Africa, in Nigeria as a whole, for us to be able to do something better in terms of living for this year and beyond. I welcome you all and appreciate and thank the contributors and the panelists for our Alliance group for being part of this session. Thank you very much and have a lovely time. Thank you. Bye-bye.